Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest version of Tales from Outer Space, where I take an HFY story from somewhere around the internet and read it aloud for your enjoyment. All the relevant links are down below. Like, subscribe, and all that YouTube comf to help this video and channel grow. Anyways, as always, I hope that you enjoy. I would just like to thank the following Tier 5 patrons and channel members for supporting the channel: FallenAngel, BuzzKillington, Datamagnet, and Bob the Dragon. Thank you again. And now, on to the story. Story number 1. Humans Collapse Terraforming Megacorp. Written by Damascus Seraph. TerraCorp was one of the most powerful corporations in the galaxy, having a monopoly on terraforming equipment and techniques since the dawn of the Galactic Senate. Its influence has nearly gotten it a seat in the Senate numerous times, as whenever any new potentially habitable planets are discovered, TerraCorp is called in to make it perfect, charging a considerable fee for each minor adjustment, charging trillions of credits per planet. But nobody can complain. They get results, and they have no competition. Any potential competitors would need trillions more of funding to get even a terraforming equipment, not to mention finding anyone with the expertise to run them, and then front the costs of terraforming themselves, barely getting one planet which could cost more than 10 planets on a sale. TerraCorp was only going to grow in power, but things were slowing down after the last century, as every species had plenty of planets to expand to now, putting TerraCorp in a precarious position as they needed to lower their prices for further customers. Stocks began to waver for the first time in history, as the TerraCorp bubble was seemingly close to popping, until humanity was discovered. TerraCorp loves it when new sapients are discovered. They are prime candidates to terraform their nearby systems to expand the usually crowded homeworld's population, usually by giving generous loans and bargain prices in order to do it. A minimum of 7 planets to terraform, more if a species is especially overpopulated or advanced. And seeing the human homeworld of Earth, billions on one rock, and another few 100 million on only other green habitable world of Mars in their system. Every board member was salivating at the profit margins. This was a perfect saving grace for the company. TerraCorp executives immediately ordered an extra dozen terraforming machines to be built, and multiplying their staff by a dozen more to be ready for the flux of begging requests for terraforming by the humans. Each machine was worth a fortune, but with the profit from the coming boon, it would be pennies. But the requests for terraforming never came. Representatives of TerraCorp stood near every human diplomat at Senate meetings and introductions to the galaxy, even stooping so low as to introduce themselves, and even having to offer their services after a few weeks of the humans seemingly not knowing of their capabilities. Already having plans being drawn up for a few dozen barren planets able to be terraformed to human colonies. And then the galaxy's largest company collapsed with one offhand sentence from the human diplomat. "Oh, no thanks, we're already in the process of terraforming them ourselves." As soon as the word hit the media, stocks in TerraCorp dropped faster than a tungsten in a gas giant. Trillions of credits in loans and credit racked up by the sudden expansion of TerraCorp were all defaulting, as banks rushed to get back a fraction of the money that they lent TerraCorp before it collapsed. The dozen very expensive terraforming machines having to be sold and laying off thousands of very expensive personnel whose training was funded by TerraCorp. Executives jumping ship, draining funds into personal accounts left, right, and center, as the galaxy watched in shock and awe as the monolith of terraforming collapsed within weeks. When the dust of TerraCorp's monumental collapse finally settled, the galaxy began panicking. Now who was going to terraform the new planets? Nobody had the expertise, know-how, or machines to do it alone. Until everyone realized that the human companies bought every terraforming machine at rock-bottom prices, and a dozen human terraforming companies began hiring ex-Terra Corp employees to help terraform humanity's new colonies, planning on expanding to the rest of the galaxy after their obligations to Earth were finished. End of story. Story number 2. Battle Prayer, written by Dragon Sun 04. Final log, Captain Jaya Nix, Belizean Military, Orbital Defense Branch. The orbital station is lost. These final words that I record will have to suffice as my final log for military records. The remaining humans under my command found it amusing that I would take the time out of what little remains to satisfy the bureaucratic nature of the military I serve. So, I will break protocol and wax poetic, if even a little, in this log. My final words in this life will be something other than what I have known. We are currently pinned down, as the humans say, behind the last functioning bulkhead door, sealed with physical bolts, to force them to come to us with as much as we can make them to waste it in attempt. They breached the station less than an hour ago. The Tel-Ah, a diminutive race with scaly skin and razor-sharp teeth and claws. The humans call them gremlins. A single one of them, as small cruisers packed to capacity and a bit beyond, reached the lower promenade deck. They spilled out like varge flies and killed any who stood in their way, stripping the most unfortunate to the bone in mere seconds. My small company and the humans that were under my command responded as best we could. Humans were as formidable as is believed by the other sapient races of the galaxy, and even more. When our circumstances became hopeless, they continued to fight. When their human-modified plasma lobbers had either run out of charge or their barrels had begun to melt, the humans used them as clubs. When the clubs broke, they turned to hands, feet, and teeth. My people, the Ba'ali, wouldn't do such things. We are a peaceful race, but will fight if needed. These humans seem to accept battle as one would accept an illness, something to be overcome rather than something to surrender to. One of the human sergeants activated his entire personal stock of explosives and dove into a cluster of them. The explosives activated and took the sergeant's life, along with 50 Tel-Ah. Slowly, they pushed us back to our current position. The highest ranking human, one Corporal Jensen, said, "Like the high-class escort, make them pay for every inch." I'm not entirely sure what that meant, but it drew a laugh from the other humans. After sealing the door, we all grew quiet, listening to the shrieks of the Tel-Ah on the other side of the door. They were probably figuring out how to get in with what they had. It was only a matter of time before they succeeded. Then, I bore witness to a strange religious ritual from the 5 remaining humans. They stood shoulder to shoulder in a small circle, heads bowed. Corporal Jensen began. "Lo, there I do see my father. Lo, there do I see my mother and my sisters and my brothers. Lo, there do I see the line of my people, back to the beginning. Lo, do they call to me, they bid me to take my place amongst them, in the halls of Valhalla, where the brave may live forever." The small circle broke, and they went back to preparing for the end. A small flask of their alcohol was passed to any who wanted it. I brought my confusion to Corporal Jensen. Was that part of a prayer? The corporal smiled and simply said, "I'm not really sure. The religion that prayer comes from is truly ancient. I don't think it has been practiced in at least 3,000 years by any human, but I could be wrong. The people who worshipped in that way were warriors. Apparently, they would say that before they would go willingly to their deaths, by meeting death on the battlefield, that they would be given an afterlife that they wanted. to go to Valhalla and continue to fight until they were called upon for the final battle. I can trace my family to those people, and it felt like my ancestors' words would work here. I was shocked that there was such a devotion to death in ancient humans, and that it still resonated with the humans under my command. They surprised me further by lining up and giving me a salute. One of them had to salute with the wrong hand, as his proper hand hung limply at his side. "Ma'am, it has been an honor and a privilege to serve," said the corporal. I returned the salute, along with the question. "If you don't follow the tradition, why speak the words?" "I don't know, just felt appropriate, given the current circumstances." I nodded. We all knew that we were going to die. Might as well face it willingly. End log. "Well, there you have it," Admiral Bradley said from down the long table. "That is what we have of that last stand. Not military, but sufficient to know how and why." The year after the station was lost, the Tul-Ah continued their relentless attack. It was only recently that the humans and the Ba'ali had managed to regain the remains of the station and recover their fallen. "What is Valhalla?" asked the Ba'ali commander, Kayawayo, with a seat at the head of the table. "As was said in the log, Valhalla is a place for honorable warriors. A fitting name for a tribute to those we lost." The war lasted another 6 years after the Tul-Ah were finally driven back to their system. The Valhalla was built, or rather, rebuilt. The station that had been lost was reconstructed and renamed Valhalla, a quiet place of reflection to remember all the fallen of the war. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider supporting the author, even by popping over and leaving a thumbs up or a nice comment, just to show your appreciation for the story. However, if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below which will help immensely. I will see you all in the next one, and until then, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Cheers.